I love y'all so much, people on Instagram. And welcome, ladies and gentlemen. I am your host, Devahntau Colonel, joining you for yet another episode here at the Inspired Challenge podcast. So glad to have you joining once again. I know we've got some people in the chats, homegirl Charlene, and I think we saw Blythe in there a little bit earlier. Shout outs to y'all for joining in. Y'all are always riding. Real quick, let's go ahead and give a quick hello, how you doing to our guest, one Mr. Basil.
Nice to meet you, Devon.
Hey, good to have you with us, man. Good
Pleasure
to have
be
you
here.
So you guys, as we get ready for this conversation, just so y'all know what our subject matter is going to be, we're going to be talking about a lot of things business-wise, what it looks like to start a business, what are some factors that may prevent people from being able to launch off of it, and how to keep from distractions, you guys. This is something that, especially with this newer generation, whether it's Gen Z, Gen Alpha, the entrepreneurial spirit is very high and there's a lot of opportunities for it, but also people can very much so get kind of caught with the shiny object syndrome. Basil here is a young man that he's done a very good job of not buying into all the hype and instead in honing his skills. So I'm excited to be able to get into his brain and to see what he's got to offer. Now, before we get into the introduction of one Basil, let me pop out the chat the chat real quick so we can just kind of see what you guys are talking about as it's coming up. So while that loads, let's go ahead and get into it. So, Basil, please tell the people your age, where you're from, what you do professionally, what you do for hobbies, and your relationship status.
All right. Nice to meet you, Devon. It's such a pleasure to be here. Basil, and prior to this, I have been in tons of different things, but I've been an entrepreneur for over a decade now. I'll tell you guys about the origami business later. That was my first business. Snap. But now I've successfully scaled a company, a 7-figure company. I'm from Malaysia. I grew up in Malaysia. Like I'm a cocktail blend when it comes to that. My dad is from Mexico. My mother's Middle Eastern. So I got a ton of blood here. And I'm currently residing here in the United States. And that's a little bit about me. Let's go into hobbies, I believe.
All right. Yes, sir.
For hobbies, my hobbies are business. Learning about business and being in business. So not much outside of business except probably just working out, connecting with people, networking, and having really, really thoughtful conversations just like this one. So I love to think and I love to connect with people who are thinkers. That's one of my favorite things to do and kind of discuss, especially with people that I don't agree with, because I see that's where most of the growth comes from. And my current relationship I heard this from one of my team members. He was like, yeah, I'm blissfully single, right? So I took it from him. I was like, yes.
Yo, that is, the St. Paul would agree with you heavily there. Oh, man, that's awesome. That's awesome. So, man, let's go ahead and I want to jump straight into setting up you as a young man. And at the same time as you set that up, two things real quick. I noticed that each of us have said each other's names with a little bit of accent. So I know I've been calling you Basil. It's Basil.
Correct.
And I know you call me Devon. The whole thing is Devahntau.
Devahntau.
Yeah. So
I nicknamed you. I'm like, it's gonna be easier for me. I hope he accepts it.
I used to have a nickname that was only 3 letters long, but then I'm like, nah. We can make them work for it.
What?
It used to be West, my middle name.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. And then the second thing is I have a little Bluetooth speaker that I want to get to be able to put on sound effects for you and whatnot. So I'm going to grab that really quick. And if you could, please launch into sort of your background story of what type of home you grew up in and how that shaped you into the man you are today. And I'll be right back with that Bluetooth speaker.
Well, hello, everyone. Let's talk about the power of the home that you are in and how it shapes you, right? Because we're all growing up in a specific environment, and a lot of times we don't know how much our environment dictates how we are in. And I grew up in a third world country. It was called Malaysia, if you've ever heard of that. And in that place, you did not have the same level of opportunity that you have here. But I grew up in a culture that valued entrepreneurship and valued freedom. Now, a lot of people there had that idea and concept of the American dream, and everybody would talk about it. But really, when you're there, it almost feels like a distant reality versus something that's actually that you're able to. And once again, everybody around us was a hustler in our community. If you know us, if you do not have anything on the side, you're not really doing anything, right? Like, you're almost laughed at if you don't. Everybody's doing something. Everybody wants to make money. And I started my first business when I was probably in the 5th grade. I'm in the first successful business. And I was making origami at that time and selling it. Now, you're like, why origami? But we all know in different schools, they go through different phases, right? Sometimes it's going to be Beyblades. I heard about the fidget spinners. At that time, it was origami, and that was the cool thing in class. So I figured out there was a gap, right? People wanted and liked the origami, but didn't want to learn how to do it. And the other thing is a lot of people did not know how more advanced techniques of origami. So I leveraged the best mentor and the best coach in origami I know. I call him Mr. YouTube. If you guys know about him.
That guy is amazing. We love Mr. YouTube.
he was the best qualified for that. I'd went in and I got the most premium colored paper you could find.
Ooh, nice.
Right, crispy paper. And I did not realize this, but I created the upsell system that cinemas and movie theaters do.
Oh, snap.
I had like a small, a medium, and a large.
Let's go.
And for the big one, I would paint it, and I would make, my bestseller was the shurikens.
Ooh.
Right?
Ooh.
I would paint them and would make the paper thicker so they would throw really, really good.
Oh, snap. That is sick.
And that was my business model. 50 cents, 75, and then it was like $1 and then $2.
Dude,
right?
I would have been getting bags of shurikens from you.
You guys have no idea.
Oh, my goodness.
Every single day I'd eat an extra shawarma, right? Because that's what they had in our school. So every single day, that would be like my extra food budget.
Hey, let's go.
Maybe it contributed to me gaining weight, right? The business there, but there's a valuable lesson in that. And from there, I tried a bunch of things that I was not successful in, right? So I tried real estate or the equivalent of it there, right? And then I also, at that point of time, did social media marketing. I did graphic design as a business, and that's a whole story on its own. And I tried a job that was not fun.
Oh, man.
Right? That was not fun until I found one thing to stick with. Right? And the real reason of my success, and I just feel like I'm getting started, is the environment that I chose to be a part of. Because environment dictates what grows and what doesn't. It's the soil that allows it to go. And we always hear the word unfertile soil, unfertilized soil, soil that doesn't have nutrients in it to absorb, but it's the same seed.
Yeah.
Right? And we always talk about the water bottles are valued way differently wherever you are. Right? If you go to the the $1 store, how much is a water bottle?
Yeah. $1 versus you go to Wawa, you're probably getting a bottle of water for no less than $3.29.
And at the airport,
Oh my goodness. Well, like $6, $7?
$6, $7 at the airport. So it's the same value that it brings, but the place that is located in changes what its value was in. It became more valuable because it became and was put in a better environment.
Yeah.
Right? So being in that environment of success, of entrepreneurship, and letting that really water you.
So I got to ask you, what was the difference of environment from trying out all these things to something now? What was that change of environment for you?
So here's one important thing to talk about in environment and entrepreneurship in general, right? Is a lot of people listen to people that they do not want their lives. Right? So I was given success advice from people that were not successful. And they gave me a recipe that would not work because they were not successful.
Yeah.
So who were they? They were telling me, go to school, go to college, and get a job. You might get accepted. And if it all works out, right, you might have the opportunity to travel overseas and work overseas. Now, here's the funny thing. All the doctors were all chilling at the Shisha Lounge all the time. I was like, hey, what do you do? I'm unemployed. I'm like, wait, you have a doctorate degree and you're unemployed. There's something more to this.
So real quick, I want to double down on this point real quick, because this is the big element of why I make it a point. And I want you guys to know this and understand this, right? This right here is the exact reason why I bring on guests such as yourself. You guys know that the primary objective of this show is to give a voice to the men that society wouldn't look at. However, because I have not built out a business to be successful in certain ways, I can't give that to men. And so that's where you see, when I first started the show, I was bringing on homeless men that were getting out of prison, like just people that worked at churches. I wasn't bringing on men that were successful, making tons of money, but men that were living modest lives. And I said, even though that's my goal, I can't give advice about building a successful business while I'm building it. All I can really give is what I've done that's worked, but even that only carries to a certain place. And that's why I bring on men like Basil, Brody, who is, he builds up businesses and sells them, helps work business deals. Zach Ross, who had great success with a TikTok store and the different things he's got going on with both of his shirt companies, is because I acknowledge that I have a certain capacity that I can give to you guys. And these men Alonzo Williams is another big one. These men that I'm bringing on of the business world, it's not to have them flaunt their success, but it's to give you guys a roadmap that I just don't have the capacity to give you right now. Go ahead, continue.
And I appreciate that. That is exactly why you will be successful. Right? Knowing your limitations of where they are and bringing on people that bridge the gap of where you are versus where you want to be. And that kind of goes into piggyback on exactly what we were talking about, which is how do you find those people?
Yeah.
Is the biggest thing. I say this like, hey, find people that you want to be associated with. But people will say, how do I find those people? And to go over that, have you ever heard of the who, how, and what framework? No.
I feel like I have, but I certainly didn't retain it.
Yeah, it's definitely out there on social media.
Yeah.
And it talks about why we do it, how we do it, and what it is.
Okay.
Right? Now, the specific thing I just want people to focus on is why. The why determines it all, right? And we have to dig deeper in. There's a very good exercise called Your Why 7 Levels Deep. I think you can Google it. It's a free resource. And it's really diving in on why you desire such thing and why you even want to be successful in the first place. Because if you do not have a why, difficulties will come, adversity will come, and you will be defeated by an adversity because you don't have the mental fortitude to understand why you're doing this in the first place. Yeah, fancy cars are fun, but you're gonna get the fancy car and then it's gonna get old. Yeah, the big house is nice, but once you get the big house, it's gonna get old. But knowing why, a bigger purpose in life is exactly what will help you win. Why is finding a why helping you actually find these people? Because when you know why you want to do it, the how becomes almost very easy to figure out. And your eye of opportunity opens because you have a very strong drive of why you want it to happen. That could be, hey, I want to retire my mom. Hey, I want to help my parents out. I want to retire my parents. Hey, I want to donate and change many, many lives. I have a charity I want to start. That is a big indicator of what should happen. And those reasons tend to be why people are successful, not really the cars, the houses, and these things. Because you will get that as a byproduct anyway, but that bigger purpose will help you not stop once those things achieve.
Yeah, absolutely. And that, even with me, when I look at my why, like the big why, my audience understands my why. It is because to build a place that men can come to gain some knowledge about. You guys saw me trying to adjust. There was a chord that I saw was getting in Basil's way here. I wanted to adjust it for him. And I think it's a little low on you now. Don't you guys love when I adjust the microphones while we're live?
It creates the suspense.
Right.
You don't know what's coming next.
Man, I love that. So just real quick for some people to remember on, there is the what, why, how framework to establish, and then the 7 levels deep why, which is, man, that is probably not a level that is not a concept that I've heard of. I've heard of the what's your why, never the 7 levels deep why. And so that's something very interesting to flesh out there, man. And for those of you, like you said, go out, Google it. And what I may even do too is create a little post that is like a little graphic of that. So thank you for that, Basil. So you established your why. And could you remind us again, what was your why?
My why is my mom.
Okay.
Right. My mother probably sacrificed more than any person in my life for us to have the life that we have right now. And one thing I've wanted to make sure is she will be in a position, and God has blessed us, but I want to make sure that she never has to worry and be the man that she's wanted me to be, because she's has a very, very big vision in life.
Yeah.
And she is incredible and awesome in that. So living up to and exceeding that vision that she has placed for me to be there for the family. And our vision is to empower 10 million families. Wow. So helping and assisting in any way I could, and not just helping, but being a leader in that vision that she has is one of the biggest things of why I do that. And it all ties to serving God.
Man, I love that, man. I love that. One time for the man here. Especially when he gives the shout out to the big G. You know what I'm saying?
Amen.
So when it comes to that idea of the what, do you have siblings as well?
Yeah.
Okay. How many siblings do you have?
I have 2 siblings.
Okay. And so is this something that, have you guys all together ever talked about this idea of the why, or is this something that you've adopted for yourself?
This is a important thing that we bring in because I really believe in family businesses. And here's the thing. A lot of people have a family business, but their kids don't see what they see, and they do not do what they do. And then they end up in a whole different category, and people are like, I thought we had a family business, right? And we're talking about a family business, not a self-employment type thing where you just hire out family and that's it. Right. We're talking about a legitimate business that involves members of your family. The most important thing when it comes to building a very strong household that I've observed from seeing how my parents have done it is to involve the whole family in building their mindset, right? Because the schooling system is not going to educate them on the things that they need to be successful in life. They will provide them basic science, math, English, or whatever that thing is.
Right.
So it's important that we bring in and bridge that gap, because mindset is everything. Talking about these is everything. Vision boards are important. So a family that talks about all these things, about improvement, about vision, that talks big, is a very, very well-connected family. So we don't just do it for myself. This is something when anybody in the family finds value, that is value to be shared with everybody, not just value to be kept.
Yeah, 100%. So big, so big. Any jewels found, bring them to the table for the whole cabinet and let everyone be able to understand, where did you find the jewels? What tools did you use? How deep did you go? So that way, when they go out to find their jewels, they have the ability to, at the very least, know a basic framework of what was done to acquire it. So, man, let's go ahead. You guys, we have a number of topics and questions that we have built out here. So we know that Basil is a young man that already at the age of, remind me of your age again?
We're going to be 23 in 2 weeks.
In 2 weeks. Oh, man. What date? What does that fall on?
May 15th.
May 15th. All right. Turning 23. Awesome. And he's already working to help build 7-figure businesses and all things like that. And when it comes to your title, what exactly is your title in that?
I think, we can say titles, but I don't think titles do anybody justice, especially in the startup phase of a business, which is like usually between 1 to 40 million.
Right.
That's where people are juggling a couple more titles. Official title would be, in terms of our business, COO, right? But of course, we do a lot more than just our titles, and our titles don't dictate that. And I'm not even a fan of titles for our team, not to conform them, to let them know, like, we're beyond titles, or anybody's above or under everybody. But yeah, official title would be COO.
And I guess the better question, because I get it, because people ask me my title. I'm like, well, I'm the photographer and the videographer and the editor and also the proof checker.
You're like CEO, exactly. CMO, CFO,
host
CTO.
And employee and networker. So I guess the better question is, what is your role in the company you're with now?
So my role in the company is to come in and first make sure everything is running smoothly, integrate systems, and build out teams.
Okay.
Right. So that's my main strength, is coming in, learning how to break down things. And I'm really, really good at pulling out resources from many different places to be able to integrate things all the way there. So I'm a very good integrator, and I'm a very good initiator of things. And I know how to find those resources to achieve the desired outcome.
Okay. And then are you B2B, B2C?
So we do both B2B and B2C.
Okay.
Right now we do a lot of B2C. But of course, as you expand, you can dedicate certain people to certain departments of either B2B or B2C.
Absolutely. Awesome. So you guys.
You got some business language in there. Like
I'm trying to have a little bit here.
Yeah, Brody did good. I know.
So you guys, we want to go ahead and see some of these pertinent aspects to Basil. So let's go ahead and get ready to move on to the first big question that we have for him to answer. The question is, Basil, why don't you date right now?
I love this question because I feel like a lot of people are going to be very puzzled by it, right?
Right. You're 23. You're a slick dresser. You have a good job. You could probably charm a plethora of women right now. So why wouldn't you?
So here's the biggest thing that comes in. Of course, there is a faith aspect to it, but I still know a lot of people who date and are faith driven. And the biggest thing that we talk about is something called the law of attraction. And if you read the book called The Answer, it talks about how every thought emits a frequency. And those frequencies will attract.
Okay.
So most issues men are facing, they don't know they're attracting those said things. So if they have a partner they do not like, they have certain people that they're let's say they're attracting somebody who has any issue that they might say, oh, they are XYZ or they are this, that. And we hear that all the time.
Right.
He's psycho. She's this. He's that.
Why do I keep getting with the narcissist?
Exactly. So it goes down to the law of attraction. Now, for me, the way I look at this is a multi-generational decision. Right? I'm not just making a decision for me and what I like and what I want right now. This is a decision for my future kids, grandkids, and multiple generations after.
Absolutely.
So if I take this lightly, and this is something that will shape the rest of my life, right? I'm not really taking my kids and my future generations seriously, and I owe it to them. So that's the first main topic to talk about is this is not just for me to have fun and to do that. The second thing from a business point of view, and this is going to sound funny, right, is I call it talent acquisition.
Hey, you know what? I think that is highly appropriate and accurate. Okay? You understand that this life we live is a business, dang it. God is the CEO, and we are either presidents or little managers and da. So whoever the heck you are gonna sit here and be in business with the rest of your life, that there is no amount of mergers or divestments that might happen or any type of splits that may occur, you're stuck with that person. I love that thought.
Absolutely. So my philosophy in business is strong married couples being in business together. Right? I am a big believer in that. I would never allow my spouse to be in a job. Right? And that's not something that I personally want. So I can't expect that from somebody who doesn't want that as well.
Yeah.
Right? And to go over that, when I am picking a spouse, they conducted a study where they found out in the right settings, people will still feel the butterfly feelings or what they call love. Like you put on a couple candles, red lights, put on the scene, the nice food, and people will feel that. So if love is a feeling that comes and go, how and why are we making a lifetime commitment based on feelings? Right? So that's why we bring in a logical aspect of it is my spouse should be able to cover my weaknesses and I should be able to cover my spouse's weaknesses. And that way we're built as a fortress, not just two identical people who like the same stuff, do the same things, are the same people. So that's why I call it talent acquisition in business is really like I either build this skill set or I go and acquire the skill set. And the most important thing in a household, and this is my opinion, is really, can we build a fortress of there where we are first, we are both and share the same values.
Yeah.
Right? So first point is law of attraction. Second point is going to be talent acquisition, which is a little funny. And the third thing that we want to talk about is really, and I sent you this article that said, what are the ages that people have more success in versus lower success in? And it's the funny thing is like, does the age you marry affect your chances of divorce? And I was researching this and it was funny. And by the way, I didn't just come like, oh, this article is here. I'm not making a decision that way. But it's a very interesting thing to find out that when people marry younger, let's admit it, we don't know what they're doing. It doesn't matter if I'm in a suit or stuff. I still don't know everything I'm doing, right? And you have to humble yourself to know you don't have it figured out. You don't know it all, and you're not an expert at it, even though it might feel that way, right?
Absolutely.
How come is it that everybody is in their 50s, they still feel they don't have it figured out, and everybody in their 20s thinks they're on top of the world?
Mm-hmm.
Right? And that's where the lack of experience comes in, and me understanding like, hey, I'm not an expert in marriage.
Mm-hmm.
So why should I go and try this out without having the right guidance behind me?
That's so wise right there. And that's a couple of things that I want to touch on right there. So you mentioned as far as talent acquisition. So the question I wanted to ask from there was, what is the talent that you're bringing to the table, and what is the talent that you're looking to acquire via this merger that you're at some point welcoming?
Yeah, there's no one right or wrong answer to this, and this is why I am not doing that, because at this point I might say something that I might be wrong in.
Fair. So we'll call this your tentative answer.
I can do a hypothetical answer,
Okay.
however. So we can definitely give that. So my strength comes from technicalities and action. Right? So for me, as a person that I'm looking at somebody that can bring in something called the relationship factor in my business.
Interesting.
Right? Which is high emotional intelligence and being action on top of that. Right? So what I'm looking at, I'm saying like, hey, this is my biggest weakness, of course, until I believe I'm ready, which, I've put on like minimum age 25 to age 27. But until then, until I've acquired enough skill sets, that is when the assessment should happen, when I'm ready, not the hypothetical now. But at this moment, I really believe I'd look for somebody who's really, really, really good at relationships. And I'm not looking for somebody who has so many different things. I want someone who's really, really, really good at one thing.
Okay.
Being a super strength and a flushed out person, a high value person, doesn't have big dips, because we perform at our almost like our average level of things. There are certain skills that are non-negotiables in humans, in business, or whatever. And let's say I am the best person, but my time management sucks. It throws everything off.
Yeah.
So that's another aspect to look at, is what does that individual bring at a table to a whole, not just say. And that's the same thing for me, by the way. Right? To attract the spouse that I want, I have to be the person that I want to become. Right? And I cannot expect, no, I want the perfect spouse, and I'm, there's no such thing as perfection, but I cannot say, hey, I want XYZ spouse, but I'm not willing to become XYZ person for that spouse.
Right. Absolutely.
Which is the most important thing. Why should I settle for a lifetime decision? Because for me, it's not dating 6 months, heartbreak, and rinse and repeat the cycle. That takes a lot of my energy away, and that's the energy that I can invest back into myself.
Majorly.
Right? So that's to answer your talent acquisition question. Because we're recruiting right now, so that's how I come with it.
Seeing the applicants and and I do have, if at any point you want to go into it, I do have some factors for acquisition you may be interested to hear about. We'll see if we get there. So you had mentioned you were going into the third part of it now.
So I'd have to remember if somebody from the audience can tell me. But let's see. We talked about first thing was law of attraction. Second was acquisition. And I believe we kind of touched on the third point very well, which is coming in and building yourself first. And the focus it takes from you is immeasurable.
Absolutely.
The energy that it exhausts is immeasurable. Right? Because here's what kind of tends to happen for people. Is they will be in high school, and I'm just talking about American society, and that's when they start to date.
Absolutely.
From 16, and they're going to continue this maybe till they're in their late 20s, 28, 29, and now they realize like, oh shoot, I don't have the partner that I want. Because I've been just bouncing relationship to relationship to relationship to relationship. And here's the funny thing, every time it's a heartbreak, 3 to 6 months, and people carry that emotion all of that time. And if you really think about it, if you were to reinvest the same resources into yourself, wouldn't it make more sense that you would attract a higher quality partner because you've become a higher value man?
Absolutely. Yeah. Especially if you have figured out the difference just between an attractive woman versus a truly high value woman. A lot of men make the mistake of thinking that, oh, because she's got a certain chest to hip ratio and has it at a certain acquired age, and the genetics happen to fall well within that person, that this is now a high value prospect, not realizing that there are so many factors, whether it's mindset wise, whether it's family wise, whether it's value alignment wise between yourself and that person, and don't realize that this person may come across as a 9 or 10 physically, but when you account for all these other factors, they're actually something like a 2 or a 3 in terms of the quality of what they would be for you as a partner.
Absolutely. And once again, it's a two-way advice that goes both ways. For a woman to attract a high value man, she has to increase her value, and for a man to get a high quality woman, he has to increase his value, right? Because you attract who you are, not who you want.
Yes, absolutely. 100%. So people have to be aware, one, of themselves. They have to do that work in those areas and then go out and say, okay, now I want someone who takes care of themselves health wise and won't be ballooned up in a 5 to 7 year span, bearing child bearings and whatnot. But even then, like, so that person works to get that under control, and just a plethora of other things here. All right. So I think that was very well fleshed out. And we did have the article that I pulled up. Did you want to go through anything in that article in particular to highlight?
Yeah. To recap that article real quick here, it talks about people marrying between age 20 to 25, right? Now, there's definitely sub-statistics that people may not talk about, but one important thing to really look at here is how it says people marrying after age 32 have a higher divorce rate, and people marrying under the age of 25 have a higher divorce rate. Now, here's the thing. Both of my grandparents have been married for over 50 years, so I do not believe in the concept of divorce. Right?
Absolutely.
Now, for that to happen, we get to understand why, not just take it at surface value. Oh, 20 to 25, X 25 hits, let's go get married.
Right.
The concept of understanding why is better than just saying, oh, surface level statistics. So under 20 to 25, you simply do not have enough experience. And now keep in mind, maybe 100 years ago, people went to war. They saw some things. They had life experience.
Right.
But before this, families were very, very tight-knit. So you would get constant mentorship from a previous generation. But now with the culture of moving out, going to a faraway college, and being influenced, that's why I believe this is one of the leading causes of people getting younger, married, and divorced, is because they don't understand what marriage is about, right? And what happens is when kids see that, let's say a single mom or a single dad, they don't see what a good marriage looks like, so they don't know how to replicate a good marriage.
That's so good. That point that you made about people not having enough experience and enough mentorship, I mean, that is exactly correct. You look at the number of young men right now who are just going through high school. I mean, the idea of discipleship is very low right now when it comes to new generations of men. You've got some young men who are highly proficient, whether it's in sports or in certain academic areas. However, they're just strictly in whether it's that sport element or they are in the books. But the coach isn't necessarily someone that spends lucrative amounts of valuable time with them. They spend time building them up and maybe confidence and discipline in certain things, but they're not helping them to vet good choices when it comes to partnership for life-wise. And the guys that are normally associated in there, unless you find specifically very mature high school age athlete guys, typically are not going to be people that can in any capacity act as a mentor. And so that element, as you said, of mentorship and discipleship is not present. And that is one of what I've seen to be one of the biggest elements. And even when you get into the business world, you see that the men who start to make the most drastic changes in their lives, going from that immature state to that mature state, one of the biggest elements is, who are they being mentored by? And the men that you see that lag in life are the men that don't have a true mentorship, where it's spending time with someone on a regular basis and being poured into in these elements of their financial life, their skill set life, their emotional intelligence, their spiritual intelligence and capacities. And so I think that's a great thing that you brought up there.
I appreciate that.
Absolutely.
And this is exactly a tip for anybody who wants to listen to anybody. Don't take criticism from somebody that you do not want their life, right? If you want to talk about marriage, do not talk and listen to someone who's divorced, right? Or Uncle Bob, if you want to talk about finances, do not listen to somebody who's broke. It's common sense, but a lot of times we let ourselves be influenced and we do not vet the influence, right? And how many marriages and divorces come because some people are listening to divorced people like, oh yeah, you shouldn't let him talk to you like that. I'm like, you're not qualified to give advice. So seek advice from people that have what you want, and do not listen to anybody who does not have that. Right. And sometimes it can be loved ones like Uncle Bob down the street. Right. And I say that because in the financial industry, they'll say, hey, my uncle taught me about this. I'm like, he's not licensed. He's not where you want to be. And he doesn't have the money. So why are you listening to him?
So accurate, man. So accurate. All right, you guys. I want to go ahead and move you guys on over here to what we have with our man. So up next, we have... All right, so we've covered what can be some weakness here in the dating world. We're going to switch back over to the business side of this here. Covering next, what does it take to build success in your early 20s? All right, so there's this is a very big question here, man. How do you even want to tackle this?
Yeah, it's gonna come with a lot of hard truths.
Okay.
Right, it's gonna be blunt, straight to the point, and we're just gonna talk about what it takes. Right.
And real quick, let's I like to give my audience working definitions that they can use to measure against what the subject is. So when we talk about success, how are we defining success here?
So that's a good question. There's no one right way or wrong way to measure success. I would say success is a definition that comes on where you is the bridge of where you want to be and where you are.
Okay.
Right? And the closer you are, the more successful you are.
So just as a reinstatement for those of you, success is not a universal idea. It is the measure of the bridge between where you are and where you want to be. All right, let's go.
So, for example, if I'm talking to my team members or the fellow entrepreneurs I'm working with, they could say I'm successful. But in my eyes, I haven't reached the level of success that I want to be at. Right? Yeah, 7 figures is cool, but when I'm talking to people and they're making nine figures, I'm like, you get humbled very quick. You're like, I'm the tiniest ant in this room. I don't want to be the biggest guy in the room. I want to make sure that I'm in an environment that dictates me. So success and that level of success is really the gap between where you are and where you want to be, right? And the closer the gap, the more successful you are. Why do I say that? Because for some people, they might want to be successful in their faith, success in their school, right? If somebody wants to get an A+ and he gets an A-, he might consider that success. But if he wants, if he wanted an A- and he got an A-, like this guy is flying through the roof.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? So that is the measure of success that you want to measure at. But for me, my goal here is to end 25 with personal income of $1 million yearly net. Not gross, because gross is very easy. I could tell you I'm a multimillionaire gross, and then I net 50,000. Doesn't matter.
Yep.
Right? So my goal is before 25 to be making a net income of $1 million personally. Now, when you measure that success, you see like, am I on pace? Yeah. Am I here? Yeah. Am I comparing to the people that I would normally have associated myself with in the past? I'm ahead of time. And in that group, I'm the most successful person, but I don't want to be the most successful person in that room. I want to go into a bigger room.
Yeah.
So to really go like, what does it take to do that in your early 20s? I want to measure things in experience. And what a lot of people don't know is, going back to the topic of what we said, time and energy is what will give you experience. And you can get experience in 3 ways. You either pay for it with a mentor. You either pay for it with time. So you pay with cash, you pay with time, or you pay with mistakes. Those are 3 ways that you can get experience. Now, if I and you, Devon, let's say you're doing podcasting and I'm not, and you invested 100 hours and I invest 5, right? Now, keep in mind, if we were given the same month period, who's going to have more success?
Oh, for sure, me.
Right? Now, let's think about it and flip it on the other side. So let's say, Devon, you had 100 hours, I had 5, but I hired 5 people. So one important thing to look at, especially for when you're younger, you have to be humble enough to know that you're not it.
Yeah.
You don't know it. You're not an expert yet. You don't have enough life experience. And a lot of times it's hard to digest. Just take a note, breathe it in, and accept it. When you accept it, only then can you really, really take the step to be successful in business, because you are going to leverage other people's experience and time to execute on your vision. And the more humble you are to take their advice and what they have to share, the easier it's going to become. So the first concept to do that in your 20s is to bring in people that have what you want to have, just like mentors. And if you're able to, hire them as soon as you can. The main reason people in their 20s, and anyone in your 20s that you see being successful, is because they hired as soon as they could.
So right? True. Yeah. And so a common question that I could see come up with this idea right here is, if I'm somewhere between the age of 17 to 21, I don't have any skills right now. No skills means I'm not making no money. Whatever money I am making might be from like Walmart, maybe working at a jail cell where I'm the guard on a summer internship. Maybe I got lucky and I moved up to North Dakota and I worked there for $22 an hour at a factory, which is pretty good. But where am I getting this money from to be able to bring someone in and utilize their experience? And how do I know that even if this person is successful, how do I know that me paying for that person to mentor me will be worth it? What if I pay $2,000 that I worked a whole summer to save up for this mentorship to get a week with them, and now what do I do with it? How do I maximize it?
Absolutely. Now, the first thing, do not get a mentorship when you are still working in a factory. That's not the time or the season for it.
Hold up. That's big, man. Because I could see a lot of people being like, all right, so he said go stack up some cash and get a mentor. Okay, go ahead.
Why is that? There's different seasons in business, and you have to know where you are. So we're talking now for somebody who's still in the job. The best, and you'll hear it a bunch of times, the best investment that you can do is in yourself. Because you have to become an asset to obtain assets. And I mean, it's all there on YouTube, but the quick thing is like, what skills should I acquire? And I want you to look at two things, and there's two different kinds of skill sets. Certain skill sets can be earned faster than others and pay you more. Other skill sets oftentimes will have to come in with experience. So for example, in the company that we have, we do leadership development and financial services. Now, I have to leverage a lot of the leadership development because I don't have enough experience in that yet. But where do they leverage in? I have a lot more experience in marketing, operations, systems, technology. Now, that is something I could learn much faster than leadership development because leadership development requires wisdom, requires all these things. But it also is a very, very high-paying skill.
Yeah.
So focusing on skills that actually pay you money and will make you wealthy. But how do you find those skills, and what are those skills?
Great question.
Next question. I'll answer my own question. So the main important thing when you're picking your skill set, you have one question only. Can this make someone else a lot of money? And if it doesn't, it is not the skill set that you should aim for. The second question, how scalable is the skill set? That means, do I need to be there? Is it easy to teach? Right? And can I leverage other people to do it? So let's compare two skill sets, sales, marketing. Two highly, highly important skills in business and two well-paying skills. Now, let's talk about sales. I could either be someone who's in sales and I could create a 6-figure income. But if I learn how to teach people how to do sales, that's a 7-figure skill. Same thing in marketing, right? Marketing's a little different. I could go and learn how to do social media posts, and that could be a social media manager will make 6 figures, like a very good one.
Yeah.
But somebody who is directly knows how to generate sales with marketing that could be a multiple 6-7 figure position. Someone who knows how to do and teach that skill set is in a 7-figure position. Yeah. So with the same skill set that you have, even if it helps people make money, being able to duplicate yourself on that is one of the best ways and one of the best skills to actually be wealthy when you're younger.
Yeah. And so when it comes to the skill sets that you mentioned, as far as something like sales and marketing, if you had a resource or a resource center that you would point someone towards as far as where to go to either learn that skill or to just cultivate it, what is something that in each of those departments that you would recommend as a high value resource?
Very good. So the first one, let's talk about marketing. The best person that does it in a very simple manner is Alex Hormozi. And he has all the courses online. Buy the books, watch the course, but actually simplify it there. And here's the thing, don't read it once and stop. Yeah. Right? This is something that requires depth. And for the love of things, do not try to go wide. Do not try to learn 4 or 5 skills.
That's so big.
If you're going to be a marketer, nobody cares if you're a marketer that can do 4 different things good. We hire people and we hire agencies that can do one thing better than everybody else. And that's what I want you to focus on is depth, not width. Funny thing, they take the same amount of energy. Right?
Absolutely.
So when Alex Hormozi will talk about 4 ways of marketing, you have warm, cold, social media, and paid media. Don't focus on mastering all 4. Just focus on mastering one and being very, very good at it, better than everybody else.
That's so good. That's so good. And I think I kind of want to harp on this for a little bit because I think that people can hear this right here and they understand it so well in a certain aspect, but then it doesn't translate over to other spots. So, for example, I'll use myself as the example, guys. So I understand this aspect when it comes to I should put all my attention and focus into this podcast. And like, if I know somebody that wants me to become their salesman for whatever this product is because I have access to this large network, or I meet somebody that wants me to start doing more at my church at a paid position, or I know somebody that all these different places that I have skills in. But what is the thing that I have that I'm building right now? Okay, it's the podcast. And I see that and I can turn down any of these other opportunities that come my way because I'm focused on building something through here. However, and this is where I think we kind of limit this concept is, and you just brought it up where you said the different ways of marketing, you can do cold marketing, warm marketing, lead generation, and I didn't even hear what the last one is, I don't think.
Paid media and social media.
Paid media, which is one aspect I was using. Yeah. So look at that. And so even in looking at those different avenues there, sometimes I make the trap of being like, okay, well, I'm doing some paid media here, and then I'm doing some like reach out to 10 people here, and then I'm doing like some reaching out to this pool of people I'm already, and it's like, there's a lot of dipping and diving, and maybe you can unpack to this and speak to this a bit. What is the difference between a person who is doing too much of a try this, try that, and to the point that it's spreading themselves too thin versus a person who is doing testing in things to see if what works so they can double down and triple down on?
Mm-hmm. So this is an important reason why to have somebody who has done it before. Mm. And here's the thing. A lot of people, as long as you're persistent enough, will mentor you for free.
Yeah.
Just be persistent enough, be humble enough, give them a gift, be nice, actually, right? And most people will be open to tell you that, and they will tell you a lot of the mistakes they did, and that will save you a bunch of time. Mm-hmm. Now, to go over the second portion, can you remind me what that second portion was?
Dipping so much into these certain things that it could come across as if you are spread too thinly. What's the difference of that versus testing things to see what works and then doubling down once you see something work?
So this is how you figure that out. And we really focus on the 80-20. Mm-hmm. You want to keep doing 80% of the things that you already know work. Mm-hmm. And when it comes to testing, don't test out new concepts that haven't been tested yet because you don't have enough data on it. But you want to leave, that's where the 80% of things, right? Hey, this thing's work. I have data on that. This podcast exactly used it, and I dug enough deep. I know what's going to work for me.
Yeah.
But for innovation, because we and the internet values innovation, how we find innovation is that 20% of things that are called experimental. Mm-hmm. And with experiments, we have to understand and come in that it might not work.
Yeah.
And if it works, we don't have enough long-time data on it. Because I saw somebody in my industry do something very successfully, but now 2 years later, he's exhausted that resource and that he based his whole business strategy on it.
Yikes. And so in that case, was it a case where it worked because it was innovative and nobody else was doing it, but it just didn't have any long-term tail to it? Or was it just something that it got oversaturated in there?
So it is a mixture of both.
Okay.
Because especially with social media and in anything, it values 1% improvements. It values constant innovation and long-term audience. You have to understand, what does my audience want?
Yeah.
He catered it to information that, it didn't have a longer term value for the audience. So the audience got all the value they had and moved along. Right. And now, he will still have success, but not at the levels that he was having before in the past 2 years.
Yeah.
Because he didn't see that his strategy had a flung to it. It worked. He stayed with it. He stayed persistent with it, which is good. He didn't change his strategy all the time, but he didn't allow room for innovation to upgrades. Like every 3 months, there's a whole new platform update, new things, and it's insane, right? But if you don't stay up with it, you'll be left behind.
Yeah, 100%. Man, so this was great as far as how to build success in your 20s. You guys make sure to take this clip, rewind back. I mean, covered mentorship, skill sets, what skill sets to look at, how to test certain things in there. Was there anything else you wanted to throw on top of this before we go to the next topic?
I think I'm excited for the next one. Right?
Awesome.
Because all the topics I feel like play along with each other.
Absolutely.
So it's a good balance between all these topics.
Yeah. So, you guys, coming up next, we are going into why do most young people never find success early in life?
Ooh, I love the controversial topics. I love it.
This has so many heads that it can split off into. So I'm so curious how you want to take this.
Oh, yeah. Honestly, I think the biggest thing to admit is what is the culture in America and why does that happen, right?
Yeah.
If you look at it, let's be honest, what are most people early on in their life doing, right? Like,
it's a combination of hunting the other gender or what else? Maybe taking up certain issues that have no relevance to the growth of their actual personal success, spending their time with people who are interested in reductive activities instead of seeking mentors. Probably about 90% of people there.
All right, and then you have partying, college. You know, you go to college, but it's really like $80,000 party plan. You have drinking, of course, and all the different distractions that can come in for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. So the main thing that we look at there is all of these things are taking a lot of energy and focus away from people. Right. And you go into it, if you really think about it, you step back and think, all these activities, how long are they going to last for? And are they really fun, or are we told, or are we confirmed to a belief that they are fun?
Right.
So a lot of times our belief systems are shaped by the 5 people that we are closely knitted with. Our parents, our friends, and whoever we allow closely in our life.
Yeah.
And what you'll find out is how come some people grow up where in a society I grew up in, it wasn't like partying wasn't a thing. But my friend who was into that and his 5 people, he loved to party all in his 20s.
Yeah.
And he did that before because their drinking age was 18 at that time, right? So we really have to understand that our belief systems are shaped by the people around us. And we can dictate and design what we want to believe in.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we can believe in that, yeah, everybody should date. And I grew up like, hey, I was the only single guy amongst my friends. And they're like, yeah, Basil's single, right? Well, who's laughing now? I just
Hey, who's with the 7-figure company now?
Right? But the real thing is a lot of people come in, and the first thing that I talk about having success when you're young is not all of us. Some are, have or do not grow up in a strong family. And the leadership in the home is everything. And if you didn't have that, I want you to really commit to making that and being that generational curse breaker for the next generation. So if you did not have a strong family unit at home, the less attractive option is to find people who have done that. And you can find that in where those people would be. Like, for example, I see strong marriages being done in spiritual places, right? So that could be the church, the synagogue, the mosque, and your place of worship of where that is, people who are people of faith typically do not believe in divorce, and then you still want to ask them questions on that. Are they with their spouse? Are they with their partner? Do you see them being a family unit, or are they separated? And if they have that formula, yeah, they got what I want, I'm going to be asking them those questions. That is the first thing to look at as a family basis and what that operates in. When you will notice who's a leader and who's not, by the way. Leaders move different. They act different. Everybody knows a leader. And those are the people that you want to be associated with. And by the way, most people never ask leaders for their advice or information or wisdom or mentorship. But most people are open to giving that.
And that's man, so that could spin off into a whole nother thing right there, because how can a person with social media right now, people are exposed to more people that seem like leaders, innovative thinkers. I've been going down the rabbit hole for about the past 2 weeks now, watching anti-MLM content. And for anyone that doesn't know what that is, MLM, multi-level marketing, it is basically the idea that any particular customer can become a retail seller of a product, and a large basis of the compensation plan involves recruiting more people and those people making up how you make your money. People hate it because it, by nature of the business model, it implies that somebody has to be at the bottom scrounging up sales as much as they can. But you would see these people, whether it's, especially with social medias, and Instagram is huge for any platform that you can go live, really, but especially Instagram, because it has no qualifiers to go live. With TikTok, it's at least like, hey, have 1,000 followers. With YouTube, they make you verify certain things, but Instagram, anybody can. And so you see these people that can go live, and they appear to have all these things that you might want. They've got, whether it's a new Cadillac that they're buying, or they look like they're going on these trips, or they look like they've got such a happy family life. How have you seen, what's been your process to vet out posers versus those that have the genuine elements that you truly want?
Very, very, very good question. And this goes down to one of my favorite quotes ever, is the quality of your questions determines the quality of your life. So a lot of people can seem like they have it all on a surface level. But when you dig deeper, that disappears and dissipates. So asking those questions before is very, very important, because once again, you want to qualify the people that you work with, not just take over all those questions. Like, what are those important things to look at? Oh, we have a great family. Well, how did you build a strong bond with your wife? How do you build a strong bond with your kids? And through their answers, the deeper you dig, tell me more. I'm very curious. All right. Somebody wants you.
I think that's an MLM right there.
All right. And that goes back to the topic about, if those people are genuine, when they can give you deeper answers for what you are looking for. And if they're not, they won't be able to give you those deeper answers. Yeah. And you'll see inconsistencies immediately start to pop up. You'll see things that were said that are no longer true, things that are said, oh, how was what's the horsepower of your Cadillac? Where did you buy it? Oh, now you find like, oh, it's not adding up. Maybe it's a rental. Right? So you will definitely see that people that pose have inconsistencies with them, and it's your responsibility to ask them those questions.
Yeah. And going along that line of consistencies and whatnot, I think some people might see, well, I mean, I've seen this person post on social media for like 2 years now. Can a person keep up a front for 2 years? Duh. Yeah. Social media is the place where you can most cleanly curate all of your experiences in order to get exactly what the person wants you to see. So I think that going even further with this idea of consistency, it's consistency in real life. Like, get off the social media of it, get off of whatever the platform is. If this is somebody that's trying to bring you in on something, spend actual time with them in person and see, like, okay, if you think that this person has a good family, spend time with them and their family at events and actually spend some amount of time where you guys are, you're seeing them when they're tired, you're seeing them when there's conflict, how do they handle things before you decide, okay, I want this person to have some type of authority that I then trust them on.
Absolutely. And one of my mentors, my spiritual godfather, told me, he says, before I married my wife, I've been married for 50 plus years.
Wow.
And he told me, he said, hey, you have to look at people, how they operate at their worst.
Yeah.
And when things are tough, and how the specific thing, how do they handle adversity? That's when you really find genuine people versus not genuine people, because that's who you are. It's when things are tough, not when things are good.
Yeah.
That's the person that I aspire to be. And I tell people this, I don't want to be there for you just when things are good. I want to be there for you when things are bad. That's genuine people. And we just had one of our team members go through some stuff. And I'm like, as a leader to him, I'm very proud with how we handled that situation with him, how we supported him through it. Because now it's a 30, 40-year investment for what we did for him.
Absolutely. And that's so good too, because when you see a person and you see them start to, like, if they're a person that becomes irate and like they just lose all their senses, that is a big indicator that you can look at, like, especially if you're looking at them in a mentor capacity. Two things that can be determined when adversity comes. If the person who's experiencing it gets shown for who they really are, and the person dealing with it is shown who they really are. If the person that is experiencing it, let's say there's a conflict, and the person going through that conflict starts to badmouth somebody constantly, talk down on them, make it seem as if this person, it's all their fault. They take no responsibility. You have to note that, because if a person's willing to do that with one person, it's guaranteed they're doing it with multiple people, if not everyone that they know, just for the sake of, them being consistent. That's what they're consistent about. They're consistent that when something bad happens, it's always someone else's fault. So you have to believe that when it comes up. And similarly, how you are when you are handling someone going through adversity speaks to what someone can understand about you. So this person you mentioned at your work, this is something that they know, man, when something happens, like, this is a solid group of people that I have around me to be able to look at.
Absolutely. And it builds very, very strong connections, right? It builds a level of respect that a lot of people want to have, but respect is earned, it's not given.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So you guys, this has been, so much talk on why young people never find success. We talked about partying, who you put yourself around, where your energy is going. And then how to even vet out the people who would be better for you to spend your time around. Make sure to come back and watch this. Before we go to the next topic, did you want to throw in something else here?
In terms of young people, to do that is really just take everything that was said seriously. And the most important thing is take action. Right? A lot of people like, hey, let me get a little more info. I need a little more depth. Take action. You have the knowledge that you need to be successful. You're just not willing to do the action for it and put in the actual work, right? So don't just have tons of books, tons of information, and zero application. You could go and people can tell immediately if you are smart in knowledge or smart in actual experience.
That's so true. That's so true, you guys. It's like me, man. I bought a course, $400, how to scale up my content. I watched it, went through, did all the stuff. Have I put an action into it? Nope. I'm still only
There we
doing
go.
2-3 interviews a week, man. I should be streaming every day.
Accountability. That's the number one thing. Accountability.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
100%. So that was such a good piece. You guys, coming up now, we're going to be coming into. Are y'all ready for this?
Do a little dance.
I love it. Let's see. We kind of touched this one here.
We'll still have a lot of talk about this specific thing from a financial perspective and point of view.
Awesome. Why 40% of divorce is due to financial issues? Man.
Ooh. 40%.
40% is massive. Mm-hmm. Wow. Go ahead, Basil.
I'll take on this one. So this is a very important thing as my career as a financial professional. And the biggest thing that we see is a lot of people never have conversations about money. Very rarely. And if let's say I were to serve you and I wanted to sit down with you, I would ask you to bring your partner and your spouse. And that's a very, very important thing to talk about. And this is why any church that we serve and we try to bring them to them, we have to let them know, like, hey, as a part of your marriage counseling, you should have finances.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
100%.
Because here's the thing, and I believe this, it's a man's role to provide, and as a woman, that's how they feel security. So when financial issues arise, how do you act in those? A lot of us are never trained on how to deal with those financial issues. The other thing is a lot of people nobody plans to fail. People just fail to plan.
Yeah.
And we have to bring up these conversations before they happen. So let's kind of like play a scenario, right? You move into Florida and you know hurricanes come. And you're like, hey, I'm going to build a wood house here with low structure, nothing hurricane proof, because there's a chance it will not happen. And it doesn't. Everything's good. 4, 5, 6, 7 years. Hurricane comes in, your house floats, you're gone, or it floods, or whatever happens, and your house is completely gone, right? That's what it looks like financially for a lot of people. They say there's a chance it will not happen, thus I will not prepare for it. But it will happen in due time.
Yeah.
Right? Financial issues will come for every family. And I know a lot of wealthy people that do that because it's now, guess what? When you have 30 million, it's not like financial issues disappear. Now you have 30 million, 20 million financial issues.
Yeah.
So that's important on how to talk about these important things. What are the values that you have? And having the discussion with your partner before you go into marriage is, how were you raised with money? What's your relationship with money?
Yeah.
Right? Because money is really an energy that we talk and we can attract it or repel it. And if your partner does not have those same values when it comes to money, there has to come a middle ground before you do that, because this is a vital part of life.
Yeah, absolutely. And man, when you say they don't talk about it, they aren't talking about it because they are talking about other things. And some of those other things that I see people spending more time on than the financial talk is talk of how happy the person makes them feel, how magical a certain experience is, being swept up in the moment. And this is something that I also see to be a little careful of, that it kind of comes after both of our belief systems here. People will say so much that, oh, I just felt like God told me to be with this person. Or they'll be like, I'm just going to put the energy out there so that this person is the right person. And I see the danger in that in both of those areas because people are allowing a sense of optimism and this idea that they understand something bigger than talking about real world things that are tangible that this other person might play into. Like when it comes to God's plans, we don't know what the heck God's plans is. You can't like maybe God has this person for you, but that's not for you to parse out. That's for it to be unraveled and for you to balance against your value set and what God's word is. And then when it comes to finances, though, that's something that you can look at and that you should be spending some amount of time on, especially in those beginning stages. People think it's weird to talk about that. I was having financial conversations with my now wife on our like either first and a half or straight up second date. Like we didn't waste any time with it.
And I was thinking like bringing an interview paper, questionnaire, right? Like, hey, we're serious about this. Bring out your questionnaire. I'll bring mine, and we'll get this knockout. What's your financial situation look like?
Man, people are horrified whenever I tell them like it wasn't a laundry list, but dude, I certainly came with like 15 questions that I brought to my now wife, and dude, people are like, "How did you guys make it past that?" I'm like, don't ask me, bro.
It does wonders. And funny thing that you say that, I had a mentor, one of my 8-figure mentors. He was doing $1 million a month, and when he sat down and he sat down with his now wife. His wife was asking him for some business advice, and he for 3 hours asked her 50 questions. She had no idea. The meeting was done. And she was like, we didn't talk anything about, like, he didn't, like, really brush in on what I was asking him about. But what he was doing, he was qualifying her. And she didn't even know at that time. But one of the powerful things is, like, she was open to being tested. And same thing, likewise, and it built a very strong relationship.
Yeah.
But I think the point that you bring up is very, very powerful, right? Why aren't those conversations being had? And if you think about it, when was the last time we were taught that those conversations needed to be had?
Man, when it comes to anything media-wise, or especially depending on what your family's value set-wise, probably never. I know media-wise is certainly something that's never taught because the movies emphasize that whirlwind effect. In fact, I'm part of a number of dating groups, and one of the biggest things that people will talk about is, oh, we met and things went so well and they were so magical and da-da-da-da-da. Same person ends up getting ghosted about 2 weeks later. And it's like, okay, so maybe the reason why is because the one person's looking for something deeper and you're focused on something that's so shallow and so like, you know, it's all about your feeling of that thing. And that's another thing too, is that people that are dating someone, anyone that is dating seriously with the intention of going further, like there's going to be some heavy latent questions in there. It's not just going to be this like fully magical butterfly inducing experience the whole time. There's going to be moments where an intense moment comes up or a moment of tension comes up where it seems like there might be some type of challenge that needs to be navigated. And that's important because from the very get-go, now it allows you to see, okay, there's a moment of tension. How do we both handle this?
And I absolutely love that. To go over that, and I want to address something for people that say, oh, God told us this, or do not use God as an excuse to be lazy. Just don't put in the work, because God gave you a blessing. He's not going to give you something built, right? And here's the important thing: as people of faith, you have to put in the work. Belief comes due to action. Faith is action. Right? You
Love
can't
that you
say
said
like,
that.
oh, I believe God will bless me, and then you're sitting down there at home waiting for a job. Like, it doesn't work that way, right? I know I believe God will bless me, so let me go and find my blessing. right? Oh, God blessed me with this person. He introduced me, but I have to put in the work to actually turn this into a proper winning relationship.
Absolutely, 100%.
Right? So do not use God as an excuse to be lazy.
Yeah.
Put in the work. Because I hear people like, God told us I have to wait on this. I'm like, yeah, well, really? Like, I was talking to somebody and we were looking at a possible partnership, and he said, well, God told me that this is not it. I'm like, tell me, what do you mean by that? And we were going to launch a mission to help a whole church out. I'm like, that didn't make sense.
Oh, wow.
That didn't make sense to me. What we're doing is to serve God. How come you're saying that? And you have to be careful from things that seem like, you can trick your mind to say that, right? And you have to know God will put you in a position to grow and to be a blessing, and that is not going to be comfortable. So when it seems like very comfortable and it's nice and all these things, you have to understand, is that what you want, or is that what really, really God has built for you, right? That's something that you really, really need to consider and think about.
Yeah, it's so big. So you guys, when it comes to this idea of, discussing finances and whatnot, and allowing yourself to just say, oh, God told me. Hey, look, if something really did come from God, right? If you understand a way of communication between you and God, then hey, by all means, but also understand, like, if this is your fourth time being told by God that this is your person, or this is your fourth time being told by God something, and then it doesn't come to play, and now at a certain point you have to say, maybe you don't understand God's will as much, or maybe God has a lesson he wants you to learn from these repeated miscommunications you've had. And so, man, that's
a really good one. And I talk about this in my concepts of the law of adversity. If you go through things multiple times, and if you go through a challenge multiple times, what you'll find is the challenge gets tougher.
Yeah.
Right? And let me give you this effect. Like, let's say you're distracted with something and I do this. You're not going to listen to me, so I do this.
Yeah.
And you're not going to listen, so I'm going to do this.
Right.
And this here. And when you don't do that, then you might get a punch, and you're like, hey, what the heck, bro? I'm like, I've been trying to tell you this whole time that a punch was coming your way, but you weren't paying attention to it. So adversity is the best opportunity for you, because it is the form of pattern interruption.
Absolutely.
Right? And when you go through adversity is the only time you think about that. Adversity only comes in to show you where your gaps are and where your weaknesses are. Right? So if you're going through a challenge, the best thing to do is to reflect. And my mentor always says, with every adversity comes an equal or greater opportunity if you look for it.
100%. And I've brought up this point a couple of times on the show. My wife has pointed it out to me, but it's so good, man. There's a part of the brain that is built for adversity. It's called the anterior mid-cingulate. This is the part of the brain that when you come upon something that is resistant to you, the part that it puts you in an uncomfortable position and you have to fight through that thing, this part of your brain actually is built to expand more and to become larger and grow, so that now that you have overcome this thing, now it is a stronger muscle. Just like with your biceps, when you work it out and you tear it and then it builds up, your brain will do the same thing, and the neuroplasticity will stretch to be able to take on more burdens and adversity. That is something God built in us.
Cool. I'm like, I got shivers. So you're telling me, like, your brain? I need to send me some information on this. That's so sick.
I'll send you some stuff to that. Yeah.
Wow, that's just phenomenal. And thank you for sharing that. Like, I'm taking notes. I wish I had my notebook here. I would have like jotted it down all.
Right. Yeah, I'll definitely send you some stuff. But man, it's so cool. For me, it was the coolest thing because I saw these verses in scripture where it said, through your suffering will produce perseverance, which produces character, which produces hope. I suffer for the glory of this. God builds me up through my trials. And then I'm like, man, okay, these are great ideas and this is God's word, so I believe it. But now to actually have the physical property that doggone it like this is the part of your brain that does it's like, look at that, scripture and science going hand in hand. And I love when scripture and science go over each other like that.
Yeah, I love how you put it there. It's like going to the gym, putting a 5-pound weight, and you're like, hey, I'm not getting big, right? No, it's the same thing in life and adversity. You have to train your body for it. And change your relationship with adversity, right? Is it a bad thing, really? Like, but, oh, damn, you know what? Like yesterday, I lost a $10,000 deal. I was like, you know what? I know my next blessing is going to be double that. And God will give me 7-fold in return. And I'm like, yeah, what did I need to learn? What do I need to learn? Where's my blessing? Where's my blessing? Where's my blessing? And that's the most important thing, to turn that adversity to fuel.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Absolutely.
So you will not grow if you keep putting the 5-pound dumbbell.
Can't do it. You got to go up to 20, 25. Come on, folks. Level up. But on this conversation of adversity here, that transitions perfectly into our next segment. So you guys, this is our final topic here, and it is, how do you use heartbreak to fuel your business goals?
Oof.
All right, man. So, sheesh, take it away, Basil.
All right. This is one of the biggest things I kind of had a talk with you earlier, is going back over the topic of adversity. And this ties right in.
So perfectly.
I just think, like this conversation's been flowing very, very smoothly, and every topic has flowed. So I want to say good job to you for doing a fantastic job with being an incredible host. And to really talk about this is, we will all go through an emotion or a time of our lives that will imprint in us, and they will leave some kind of pain.
Yeah.
And how we use that emotion will dictate if we become winners or losers in business, in life, and in anything. And I believe you've heard about this concept of choosing your enemy. And Patrick Bet-David goes very well into this in depth in his book. But letting that heartbreak be your fuel into choosing that person as an enemy, not just to hate on them, but to really take full accountability. So you have to mix both that energy with accountability to really achieve the desired results. So like yesterday, I was talking to my mentor, and he was bringing in a couple people to a specific mastermind. And I was talking to him like, hey, what can I do to get in? He's like, you have to be a certain business level. You have to be a certain income and cash flow. I'm like, nothing I can do? I'm like, nothing. I got pissed. I was so pissed, but I wasn't pissed at him. I used that energy to go, no, this is my fault. And I take full accountability on that. So the biggest thing with heart and breakup is people point the direction. It was her, she was this, she was that, she never cared, or whatever that may be, right, for your given situation. You have to, no. You chose your partner. You made that choice.
Yep.
And you chose that person. So if you are lack the ability to choose the right partner, that's on you. If you allowed them to hurt you, that's on you, right? If they, like you told me a story, somebody getting cheated on multiple times, that's on you, by the way, right? That's really taking full accountability. That's me. What can I do? Because when you point the direction, people say there's 4 pointing back right at you. And what that means, if you do not take accountability, you will never grow from your adversity.
Yeah.
So now that you have taken full accountability, you take that feeling and that heartbreak, that pain that you're feeling right now, and you put it to good use, right? And don't come at it from an emotional perspective and crying and all that. No, we're like, no, this is my mistake. I take full accountability what I can do to prove this person wrong. Because proving somebody wrong is, for some reason, does so much more than proving somebody right. Right? So using that negative emotion into that outlet. This is why, what do we see? There's two kinds of people in a heartbreak. Some people go get a 6-pack, other people get a family pack, right? Which is one big, big belly.
Yep.
But why is that? It's really, really being a victor or a victim.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Are you going to let this dictate the rest of your life? Are you going to allow yourself to be defeated? Because defeat and losing is a mentality. It's not an action, right? Because let's say I didn't achieve my business goal. Let's say I lost. How many times can I get back up will determine how much further I'm willing to go. And this is where it ties into using that. It's a very, very powerful emotion. And you can really, really succeed with it if you think like a victor. But victims don't take accountability and they blame everybody else around them.
Yeah.
So one thing, and one of the family laws that we have in our house, we say something called no blame, no shame, no justification.
Wow.
Do not blame anybody. Do not try to justify it, and do not shame anybody. And that's the concept of accountability. That's what accountability it really is about. It's not justifying anything that happened. It's not blaming anybody for anything that happened. And it's not shaming anybody that happened and saying, I have full control of that.
Right? Wow. That's wild, man. And that's something within the household that you all grew up with?
So, yes, this is a concept that we've implemented maybe for the past couple of years that we've added. And that's a concept of there. Whenever we come in, because think about it, as a family that grows, the ideologies you grew up with are not going to be the ones that you continue to grow up with.
Yeah.
And that's something that once we found out, we were like, no, this is something that will be implemented in our family law, right?
I love that. No, and it makes sense too to have this type of law come up now that you are all grown people in your own rights, and now you have pretty much the burden now that either you adopt this or you'll figure out quickly that this is the way it is. And so now you guys get to just kind of have that be a natural part of your home whenever you return there. And man, what power is it to whenever you have relationships? You had mentioned the $10,000 deal. It's like, man, what does that conversation look like? Some people might go and they might say, yeah, man, he was just such a stickler and this and that, and he just didn't get it. But you might say, okay, maybe there was some type of pain point that I didn't understand. Maybe this isn't the right time for him, and this is just someone that needs to be followed up with in 6 months to a year, or maybe like all these different scenarios that might come up. Maybe the project is a different project that he would want. So I love that framework for how to look at how you speak about things.
Absolutely. And once I kind of missed out on that deal, I was just thinking back. I'm like, well, let me reflect. And I'd realize like what I can do is absolutely what I need to get better is increasing my people skills and understanding his pain enough. Because I didn't communicate his pain to him and he didn't understand why this makes, because think about it, logically, this makes sense in every possible regard. And it's something he needs. He's not just something he wants, but he still chose to not move forward. I was like, no, this is on me for not conveying that to him and not helping him understand it and diving deeper. Yeah. Right? So it kind of made me reflect on that to really go in and like, no, I still need to polish up my skills. And, I'm nowhere near where I want to be. Yeah.
And I'll give you my pain that caused me to go into my moment of like, okay, I got to make some big changes. My audience knows this, but the way that I eventually got in the situation where it finally led to my marriage was that I had failed a 6+ year relationship. And I swore on everything I was going to marry this person. And the reason I lost it was a combination of putting off the marriage, of not verbally affirming that person to understand the security of our relationship and adapting these new age ideas as far as, polyamorous relationship. Interesting concept. Let's look into it. And for so much time, I looked at everything that was going on for about 6 months. And I was like, oh, this person did this to me and they treated me wrong here. And, da, 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 da. And then at a certain point, it was me saying, you know what? Ironically, it was once I started integrating God into my life and understanding I had a role to play, that even though we weren't married, that relationship is training. That's another thing people can understand is every relationship you're in should at the very, if it doesn't work out, that better be training and not just a thing where you're just like pretty much gaslighting yourself and gaslighting the person. If you ever want something successful. But I had to look at that and say, I was supposed to be the leader in that relationship. And this person was a good person that, if I had led correctly, would have been a good wife. So it wasn't, and even if there were some flaws that were there, what of that did I contribute to? Were there some personal factors that she had that were just, of course, like, when this type of conflict arises, her natural personality leans towards this? Sure, that's there. But was I on point, making sure that it never got to the levels of 1, 2, and then her reaction being there? Because that's on me if those first 2 levels were breached and then she got to level 3. And I had to do that a lot. And then that's where, when the date comes up with my now wife, I said, okay, I need to have these things figured out firsthand, and I'm going to set this up before we go any bit further. Either of us waste this, as you mentioned, that energy aspect of it. We're going to dissipate that energy now, and we're going to minimize what's used. I'm going to bang this out with these 15 questions here. If it's even worth it for either of us to continue past these 15 questions, let's go. Let's keep exploring this. If not, at least we know, and we can just have fun. There's no sexual tension in the air, and then we just move on with our lives.
100%. And people spend like 3 months trying to figure that out, 3 to 6 months to have that conversation. It's just like a lot of wasted time. Like, just get to it. Like, you ever hop in a meeting or a conversation and somebody's trying to tell you something, but like, imagine I'm trying to tell you something, but we wait 6 months.
Oh man.
Right. That's what it is. Because the moment the emotions dissipate, reality hits all of a sudden, and you're like, oh shoot, actually, maybe this is not it.
Same thing.
But if you thought with your head, in the beginning, it wouldn't have led to where you were in that first place. You put your position, and you're the person who put your position in that place. And I really, really appreciate you being open about this. This is something a lot of people need to hear.
Thank you, man. Thank you. And it's some emotions that are so strong after the situation of a heartbreak. There is sadness, emptiness, anger, regret, guilt, anxiety, depression. And all of these things can be so destructive if not harnessed correctly. When it comes to anger can be an incredibly dangerous emotion, but even the Bible says, be angry and do not sin. So it doesn't say don't be angry about something. You can be, it's just, what do you do with it? That sometimes anger can propel us to do things that we need to do to course correct ourselves. Sometimes depression is something that tells us, hey, you need to seek out someone with the wisdom that can help guide you through your emotions. Sometimes anxiety tells you you need to get clarity on something, or you need to go to someone who can comfort you. And the same thing with all of those other emotions. They can be indicators to help you understand that you were lacking in something and you need to take action on it. Otherwise, this thing will not go away.
Yeah. And I want to touch base on emotions here, because this is a very important topic. Scientifically, emotions only last for 30 minutes. What does that mean? That anytime you continuously feel an emotion, it's a decision to continue to relive it. And I don't believe in depression exists. I don't believe anxiety exists because these are two things that are heavily controlled by the belief systems of that. Can you feel down? Yes. Can you feel uncertain? Yes. But here's the very, very important thing that to talk about these two things, this is where true faith comes in.
Yeah.
Because certainty comes in believing that your destiny is set and God has your back. Right? And depression a lot of times can happen when people look into the past and they're living in the past.
Yeah.
But God, and what we understand is God gives us hope, and hope is looking towards the future.
Yeah.
So when you really come in, and I encourage one of the best things to do in that time of hardship is to really go and take yourself out and go and get involved in your religious place of worship, right? Involve yourself with people who are doing that. And that's when you find your reality is a lot of it is going to be there mentally. Of course, hey, hurt will take time to heal. The pain will take time to heal. It's not going to be like, oh, okay, I believe in God. No pain can touch me. You will still feel that. But the concept of anxiety and depression, I believe, will be eliminated once someone really establishes a good relationship with God and builds a stronger faith.
Yeah, I know that I've seen a stat recently that said 50% of, I forget if it was liberal-minded or Democrat voting women suffer from some type of mental disorder. And that's kind of insane.
Guys, let me tell you this. I came from a third world country. There ain't nothing called depression, anxiety, all that. We have bigger problems to talk about because, once again, when you look so into you and you don't look around you and you're not contributing to society, it becomes all about you. And it's not. It's not all about us. It's not all about me. I'm here on earth to serve. So the concepts and belief systems, once again, are shaped by the people around you. You're with 5 depressed people, you're depressed. 5 anxious people, you're going to be anxious. And this is a very important thing to talk about. Where I came from, I didn't even know something called depression and anxiety was a thing until social media brought it up. Like, seriously.
Yeah.
So guess what? I never saw somebody who was anxious. I never saw somebody who was depressed because the concept of that thing did not exist.
No.
And our brain is so powerful that it dictates our reality. It really, really does. Your belief system changes and depicts your reality. And I have a funny story on that. Like, one time I remembered and somebody did something to hurt me, but I was thinking like, oh, he wanted to help me. Right? And he was looking at me weird because he's like, I'm trying to hurt you. And I'm like, and I'm smiling at him because I'm like, he's so sweet. So my reality depicted, like, my belief system depicted my reality. And he's like, yeah, this guy is, I don't know, maybe a lunatic, trying to hurt him. And he's smiling at me, smiling at me back. But that's the power of belief systems.
Yeah. And it's certainly like, you know, when it comes to the percentage of what would have been, I guess, more conservative-minded women, was there some people that probably had anxious thoughts or feelings of sadness about the past? Certainly. But the main difference is that these people very likely handled it through either some form of talking to the people that mentored them, going to the community around them, praying to God. These people didn't feel stuck with these things themselves. Instead, they expressed it to their different forms of authority and peership, which allowed them to have an outlet, which, when we really look at what the base root of it is, a lot of these ailments that are very socially heightened at this point really come from a person that feels stuck and trapped in a certain place or is overly worried in a manner that they feel like they don't have control over their lives. And so when people allow these things to come to the people around them and they no longer feel trapped in that box, but now that they can feel some type of support, some type of hope, can restructure the whole thing.
Yeah, and I want to highlight this. The reason I don't believe in depression, because I used to.
Mm-hmm.
I used to be in that place where I had a best friend, then that's all he talked about. I'm this, I'm this, I'm this, I'm this, and this, and that. And I believed that, and I had thought that was a reality that I was in, but it wasn't. And I'm looking back at it now, like I would never even accept or tell my brain that I was DEP. You spell. I don't even want to say it.
Yeah.
Because whatever I say is an affirmation. And you're reprogramming your subconscious mind. Our brain, once again, is really like a computer. Whatever you input in it, it becomes. Right? And I'm not saying that your current emotions are not real, as you said. But once again, if you change that to a belief system where you turn a 30-minute emotion into a 30-year lifestyle, that's the thing. And my question to anybody who feels that way is, do you want to continue feeling that way? Do you like feeling that way? And if not, this is the time to challenge that belief system. Because here's the thing. Ever since I changed that belief system, I haven't talked to anybody that's depressed. I haven't talked to anybody that's anxious because I don't attract people like that anymore. Right?
Yeah. And it's the looking back, like at the time, like that post breakup time period, it's going through and living that time period out. And I think about the young man I told you about who had his heart crushed before him. It's these intense emotions, they can come up and they will flare up. But as you put it, these things come in bursts. These aren't things that are present all 8 hours of a work period. I can vividly remember going and walking around a job site, having a decent enough day, and then for anywhere from about 30 minutes to about 2 hours-ish, this huge hit of emotion will hit. And then what do you do afterwards? You get out of that situation. Now maybe you have some music on. Maybe you're getting involved in, for me, it was dance at the time. Now you change up where you are and you give yourself some time. And one of the best things to do is to say, okay, if I still feel like this in, call it 5 days or 7 days, then I'll give myself license to do this activity. And truly track and challenge yourself to see, this is an intense emotion right now, but is this permanent or is this how I am right now? Once I challenge myself with that, I realize, oh wait, I'm pretty good for 22 hours of the day, and it's only 2 hours where my life is miserable.
I like that. I want to add a challenge to that, to switch the word I feel to I want. Because when you say I feel XYZ, you are reconfirming to your brain your current emotion. But when you say I want, you're telling your brain what you want. I want to feel better.
Yeah.
And here's the truth in life. True happiness does not exist. Right? I know, I want to be happy, No. You want to be fulfilled.
Yeah.
Right? Fulfillment comes in. And the beautiful thing is when you understand the nature of things, you'll never be surprised. Okay? Like, for example, something upset you. Okay, the first question I ask is why? Why did it upset me? And I want to dive deeper into why I got upset or why I got hurt or why I was angry. And that will really, really help me understand the nature of how I operate. And now good. I can really understand, is this just me being triggered by something from something maybe in the past that can happen? Triggers repeat. Or did I misunderstand something? Was it my ego? Right? What was it that led me to have this reaction? And most of the time, it will really, really dissipate that emotion faster is understanding why. And you have to, in engineering, they call it the 3 whys. Ask yourself 3 whys. Some people say go 7 deep. There's no, once again, there's no one confirmed 100% way of being successful. It's really about asking that why, and diving deeper into why you felt that way, and understanding and saying what you want to say. Hey, I want this to pass. I want to do that. A lot of people talk about, I don't want this. I don't want that. But when you ask yourself, I want, your brain is now activated and looking for that opportunity for you. I want to have, like, let's say if I was a podcaster, hey, I want to have one of the biggest podcasters in my head. Let's say I want to have XYZ person. I want this, I want this, I want this, and it will happen. Right?
Yeah. And that's so good. And there's actually scripture as well that confirms to us when we face adversity, when we face these challenges, these feelings of desperation, God does not tell us to look at the pain that we're in, to look at, search our feelings for our emotions. He tells us to fix our eyes on him. He tells us to praise him. That's another thing too. Based off of what you are physiologically doing, how you contort your face, studies show that people that smile more, these people are just naturally more energetic, upbeat, and they can actually fool their body into thinking, oh, I'm actually happier than I am. So that's another thing too. Like, if you are fixating your mind on these things, scripture tells us fixate it on God, because when you fixate it on God, what is that? That is your hope. That is your peace. That is your truth. That is your guidance. That is telling you what to do in this time. So if you can take it towards that, I mean, again, that's another place where we see how our brain works versus what scripture tells us to do. So you guys, if you're not with the God, get with it, folks, man. Did you have another piece you wanted to put on that?
Yeah, just to close it out, I never meet a weak-minded millionaire. that never happens. And this is the importance of the way that you think and the way that you operate. And this is why I really, really think it's important for young men to start having those conversations about God and diving in. And this is the reason I say with religion, when you read into religion, there's always going to be rules and specifics and things. But I encourage you to go and connect on an emotional level first, because that is where a real relationship, and that's where faith comes in, right? Theology is a human understanding of God, and that's depiction. So you might read a book, it can be helpful, but that's how a human perceives God.
Yeah.
And nothing in like writing or a poet or somebody who is on a YouTuber can give that for you, which is the connection. And in other ways, people call it meditation. By the way, or some people call it prayer. Prayer is not just asking, it's connecting with an intention of, hey, let me really spend this time, close out everything else, and just open my heart and mind to God. And it's not going to come in fast, but I guarantee you the moment you do it, you will feel peace. And when you feel peace, you know you're doing the right thing. But when you come from a logical point of view, like you're talking about God and you're trying to understand him in a human brain, that's not going to work.
Yeah.
Right? So you have to let go of this logical understanding first and really, really connect on an emotional level as well, and not just on a logical side. God says, don't do this, so I'm not going to do it, but you don't understand why. What's the emotional effect? Why does that? And when we understand, once again, why, the how becomes easy.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's such a good point, is that, like, there's a lot of God that we won't understand. Why did he make us? Like, why not just continue to be a God? Like, that's not something that is for us to understand. Why have everything happen that happened, like with all these deviations that there are? Well, that's not for us to understand. You know, some people speculate it's cultural and this and that, but It's not for us to understand. But the fact of the matter is, there is a God. I believe that more than a random explosion. So if there is a God, there is an order to things. We see that because there is a commonality to people that typically achieve the most. Some of the greatest figures in history give their success to the fact that God was in some way a part of that. And so our job is to actively seek this God and to actively connect with him and to actively be in the presence of this God. And something that came from a church meeting that I was in recently was a lot of people seek God because they want to get in his power. They want the power of what God can do. However, when all you seek is his power, you lack that relationship. So instead, if you seek the presence of God and you just seek to be around him and with him and to understand what he wants you to understand of what we can understand of God, if you seek that and you indulge in that, the power comes with the presence. So seek first the presence of God, and the power naturally comes through you allowing yourself to live in that presence of him.
Oh, beautiful. Beautiful. And to add to that is, don't just want to take from God, serve, give back, right? And I guarantee you, he doesn't need anything from you, but the law of exchange says, hey, the more that you give, the more that you take. And don't just be a good giver for the givers out there. Be a good receiver too.
Oh, man.
I know a lot. I used to be a giver, and I'm like, I don't have no blessings. I'm like, nope, blessings came. I was just refusing those blessings.
Yeah.
So
that's a good point too.
Be a good giver and be a good receiver.
Man, so good. You guys, we have gone over at this point. My apologies, Basil. I want to respect your time, even though we're over. So I'm going to go ahead and move us over to the closing segments now. So in the closing segments, I asked, what are the three biggest take? I know there was so much here, but the three things people must take from this conversation, meditate on, implement, and take action on. Go.
Absolutely. The first thing that I would tell you to do, especially knowing your audience, is humble yourself, right? Because if you do not humble yourself and you don't open your mind to your blessings and to the information, you will not be able to really, really comprehend it. And the moment that you realize that, hey, am I great compared to who? I'm good compared to who? And you know there's so much more for you to improve on, is when you allow yourself to grow as a person. When you have an ego, when you think you've made it, yes, you've made it, and you're going to stay there for the rest of your life. All right? So if you're happy where you are, good. But if you want to grow, I'm sorry. You're stuck. The other thing is action. And we talked a lot about great topics here. Without action, all this information that you just digested does not have any value, right? And if you think about it like that, if I have $50 million of gold and I never use it, what's really the value of that gold? Yeah, it's worth 50 million, but if it's never put to use, it's worth nothing, right? So you're built up this bank of gold, but if you don't actually use this currency and put in the work, that gold is worthless. And the third thing here, and I highly encourage you, start putting yourself in the places and in the environment that you want to be in, whether that's a better friend group, a mentor, or somebody that you want to be. Start finding and seeking out these people. And once again, don't be scared to approach them, because I think just kind of like dating, right? You got to throw your shot.
Amen. Yeah.
You got to shoot your shot.
100%. You're going to get a lot of no's, a lot of rejections, but man, when it finally lands.
You'll be surprised. You'll be surprised how many mentors don't get people approach them. How many leaders? Because here's the thing. Like, yeah, we see people on social media, but a lot of people are not.
Yeah.
Right?
That's true.
We have a contact, very, very good person who makes $17 million a year. And we can call him at any time. He'll give us everything he has.
Really?
Well, why is he able to do that? Well, first, because he is the right person. He's a giver, right? He matched our values. That's why we attracted. But the second thing is because a lot of people didn't ask. Right?
Wow.
And I think it goes in here in a lot of religious texts is like ask. Just ask for it.
You have not because you ask not.
There you go, right? You're probably better at me with scripture. So this is why that's why I got to listen to the champion, right? But that's very true. A lot of us never ask, and that's why I say, hey, what's the chance? Like even at the coffee store, right? One time I had a coffee, like, hey, the coffee's a little bitter, and I'm not gonna go in line to get like a pump of sugar-free vanilla. I'm like, what's the chance I could get 2 pumps of sugar-free vanilla? And he just went and did it, right? So a bunch of times, what's the chance I could do this? What's the chance? And how open would you? Another good question is, are you opposed to having a conversation? Because a lot of people can say, I'm not opposed. It's very hard to say, yes, I'm opposed. So there's a couple ways that you can have, but hunger is attractive to successful people because as somebody I'm successful, I guarantee the moment I find somebody's hungry, I want to take them under my wing, hire them, recruit them, build them.
Yeah.
Right? So if you wanted people, like, believe it or not, I see people all the time like, hey, this guy's hungry, take him, recruit them, put him under my shoulders, let me teach him. And do that. So you bring the will, yeah, but if you're lazy, you're complaining, nobody's going to work with you. That's the truth. Bring in the hunger, the humility,
yes,
and be open. And I can't tell you how attractive that is to successful people because it feels good for humans to do that. Like, oh, wow, I'm just telling this person what to do, what I did. He went and did it, and I changed his life. Even if he doesn't get anything in return, it feels good for people. Right? But of course, it will get tougher as you go up, and the more you have to give. Even if you have to work for free, you're too expensive. Right?
Yeah.
Even if you have to work for free, like, hey, Basil, can I work for you for free? Like, you're too expensive. They're like, what do you mean? I'm like, I'm going to work with you, build you, mentor you. My time is valuable. So even if you work for free, you're too expensive, and you have to understand that.
Yeah.
Right? But guess what? What was his name? Top investor in Wall Street, older gentleman.
Oh.
You can put his image in the post edit. But when he asked his mentor to mentor him, right, he said, you're too expensive. And he was young, high school. He did convince him anyway to do it, even though he was too expensive. But that's the power about this. And, I can't believe I forgot his name.
My thought is to go like, oh, Jordan Belfort, but no, I know it's not Jordan Belfort.
No, it's not Jordan Belfort. He's the one who says first rule of money, never lose money. Second rule, never forget. Rule number, I cannot, like, I see him in my head. I just like, the name is not popping up.
Oh man. If it does come up before we end this.
I'll look it up.
All right. Thank you for those 3 pieces there, man. Really good pieces for the audience to be able to take in. And while you continue to look it up, the next thought is, what are any of 3 questions that you have? You may ask it, and I will answer it completely honestly.
Okay, so since I'm a financial professional, I'm going to do questions there.
Okay.
That's Warren Buffett. Warren Buffett, I can't believe we forgot that. But my questions to you, because I want to challenge the audience and you today to really take a step for your ultimate work with you is, the first question is going to be, how often are you talking about money with your spouse, and how have you planned the rest of your lives financially? Retirement, savings, all that stuff.
Oh, man. Yeah. I'd say we probably talk about finances at least once a week, because I'll talk about, the podcast is doing like this, spending this much money. Is this worth it? Is that worth it? Hey, I'm thinking about running this ad. I'm thinking about doing this type of thing, maybe this contest. My uncle is constantly coming up with some type of investment opportunities. So we talk about that. Usually she's more on the conservative side with it. We'll go back and forth, me challenging her, oh, no, I'm not too sure. So I would say at least once a week, we'll have some type of conversation about it. And then as far as like having like a big conversation as far as something that we need to do differently, that's probably more of like every 3 months, as far as like, we've been doing like this for X amount of time. We spent X amount of money in the past 3 months or so because we were, whether it's moving something or honeymoon vacation, and this is how things are looking with the financial planner. And this is like what we're, what pace we're on. And then, probably every 3 months we'll like see, okay, are there some major, do we need to start tracking more? Do we need to change things up? Do we have it to be able to do more in the podcast here? If so, let's actively try to do that. Yeah,
I think I want everybody to take that down. Once a week is a very healthy amount to talk about because they say, I think this was a statistic, 67% of Americans are not on track to retire. 67%. So my next question is, do you think you're on track to retire?
Barring some crazy ailment that befalls my wife and some type of laryngitis that just never goes away for me. With the incomes that we have right now, I do believe we're on track to actually retire. I do believe so.
Okay, good. So a general rule of thumb to know is you need about 80% of your current income, and you should have about they call it like a 4% rule withdrawal of how much you would have out of that savings account to actually stay retired for enough period of years, right? The reason I say that is thinking you're on track to retire and being on track to retire are very, very different things. And I encourage you to do the math of, hey, let's say if I make 100, that would be $80,000.
Yeah.
And then I need to get that every single year. If 80,000 is 4%, multiply it by 25, and you'll find that number is almost close to 2 million. Right?
Yeah.
It's a quick math. It might not be exactly accurate. But a lot of people go like, oh, you need 2 million. They're like, oh, shoot, I don't have 2 million. Actually, maybe I will get 800,000 tops. Right? But the good thing about being younger is this is the time to seek counsel. And to add that, make sure that they are not non-captive. That means they are not working with one company only. Right? And make sure they're licensed. Never listen to someone who's not licensed.
Yeah.
Right? So I'm sorry. I don't know about your uncle's investments. They might be good. But if somebody told me, hey, my uncle's that, I'd come with caution of asking questions.
For
right?
sure.
Not that he's not wrong or right. It's just about doing your due diligence when it comes to that.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. And did you have any third question up
Yes. Third question is now it's going to deviate a little bit about that is I know you have a mission here for your podcast to really, really give back and empower a lot of young men. I want to hear about what's your big vision in life. What's the big one? What's the one that's going to be for 10, 20, 30, 40 years?
Okay.
For yourself.
Man, so 10, 20, 30 years, I would say that I have,
And add numbers to it.
Got you.
You can be more specific with it.
Yeah. So one of the big numbers that I determined last year was throughout the course of the lifespan of this show, I want to actively pray on live air for no less than 100,000 men. So people that I pray for randomly in stores and in church and throughout these things, they don't count towards it. I want to have 100,000 men that I sit in front of this camera that I pray for in the various ways that it occurs. The next thing would be I want to, and this one's a little bit more general, but I want to be able to if she desired to retire my wife, or at the very least have her work from home because she can do that and be able to sustain that, as well as have a business that can support taking in 3 to 4 students, whether it's that I work with from my church or that are in these local areas, that I can bring them in, mentor them for, whether it's anywhere from 10 weeks to 6 months, mentor them, pour into them, give them some skills and technology, show them what I'm doing, how I grow things, the systems that I use to operate things, and just give them this thing and then unleash them to use these skills to now start to have an entry level job at somewhere, or maybe even better than entry level now that they have this internship type of experience with me. So to create that space as well. And then finally, I would say to be able to take this podcast and actually bring it into community events where the men of the area can come around it, the boys of the area can come around it, and I can actually team up and partner men that have done something with boys that want to do something, and I can be the vehicle driver that helps that happen.
Oh, that's awesome. I love that. That's what we're talking about. 100,000 men being prayed for. And I feel like you might even do like a course with all the wisdom that you've done and given away for free. Right? I mean, there's no one right way, but I'd love to see that community when it's done. I think it's a beautiful vision and fires me up. Any way to look at the comments?
Yeah, absolutely.
To see what...
So, oh man, this thing, it comes up so small. So we've got some comments here. Charlene's been saying he's so smart, indicating what audience wants is essential. Who's laughing now? The narcissist is never that fault. I never knew that in the anatomy class. I may have to write that down. Devante said a challenge, academic challenge at the moment. Awesome. So that pretty much wraps up everything that we had here, man. So at this point, I want to know, what is something that you're going through right now that you either want to confess live, something that you could use encouragement on, or something that you want to give a praise about that I and the audience can come around you in prayer about?
I appreciate that. So one thing I learned from my mentor is he never, ever talks about his problems, right? And the reason I say that is, when it comes to problems, I think the number one person who should hear them first is God.
100% agree.
Right? So what I do want to talk about is praying over a vision. And I'd love if we pray over the vision of helping 10 million families by the year 2030, right? So we are always looking for those super talented people that want to come in to the financial industry and are really passionate about making a big impact in that. Yeah. And that's our vision. That's what we want to do, and we want to build 100,000 elite-minded leaders, right?
Oh, man.
So talking about that, I always like to pray over the vision. And we see it already happening and already becoming possible. And we're aiming for that 2030 goal. People say now, like, hey, I don't know how it's going to happen. You guys seem like you're far off. And we're like, hey, don't believe me, just watch.
I love it. Listen to Bruno. All right, you guys. So at this time, would you please join me in prayer for our man, Basil? All right. Dear Lord and Heavenly Father, we thank you so much, God, for this time that we've been able to come together. We know that there were some challenges, Lord, that there were some, in this hot day, there was some extra traveling done. And we're just glad, Lord, that you allowed us to be able to make it and to be able to have this amazing conversation that accidentally went over. And we're just so thankful for the fact that you bless us in these ways that we can take time in the middle of the day to sit and to have a 2.5 hour long conversation in this way, Lord. And we pray that it's been a blessing to the audience and that they've been able to take something from this, to learn from this, and that they are able to just implement some of the elements that Basil was able to communicate with them in that, Lord. At this time, we want to lift up Basil and just be able to pray over this vision that he and the company have, that they can positively affect 10 million individuals, Lord. 10 million, insane. We pray, Lord, that you would just lead their way and guide their path, that they would be able to see every footstep that you have for them to walk in, and that they would just lean into that or run into that head first, Lord. We pray that any thoughts and ideas that may be deviant from your plan for them in this regard, we pray that all of those things would fall second fiddle, Lord, and that everything that they do would be something that glorifies you in that, and that this action that sounds like such an amazing calling, that they could be prosperous in it if it is something that you have worked out. And if not, we trust that you have a plan for that, Lord. But we know that you have the mission lined up for us, and you have the destination lined up. And so we just pray that you give them the strength to persevere and to fight and to go as hard as possible to reach that goal by 2030, Lord. We thank you for being a good host and a good guide to us, for shepherding our spirits, for taking us in and allowing us to come closer to you, even when we can be so selfish and so focused on just all these distractions, Lord. You allow us to come in and to look at you and to say, that's who I'm aiming for, and that's whose plan I want to follow. So thank you, God. We thank you for everyone that attended today, from Basil to the audience to everyone that watches this on the playback. And we pray that everyone would be blessed for the rest of this week. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
My man. This has been solid. You guys, thank y'all for tuning in, for staying late. I'm going to go ahead and let this man go because he's late now. I will catch you all on the next episode of the Inspired Challenge podcast. Take care, everyone. And dipped. Oh,